final week of our series, Underrated, not overrated, underrated. This week's our bottom line was only you can own your faith. And last week, during our after party, who was at our after party last week? Yeah, that was an awesome time. We had 50 students, 12 guests, 6 students got saved. It was an incredible night. If you invited a friend or brought one, congrats. Give yourself a round of applause for that. You guys did an awesome job. Super proud of you guys. That was terrible. Give yourselves an applause. Come on, yeah. All right, so last week our bottom line was only you can own your actions. Good, that's right. You remember last week. Great. Have you ever noticed that there's this weird tension that exists between adults and students? You guys ever felt that before? It's almost like there's two alien races on 2 different planets. The older people planet and then the student planet. And it's not that one planet is better than the other. It's just reality. Here's the fact. Adults and teenagers are different, and that's okay. The old people planet understands certain things that the younger people or the student planet does not. Things like, I don't know, like taxes. Raise your hand if you've got a great grasp of the IRS system and our tax system in our federal government. Yeah, I don't believe you, because I don't really know much about taxes and I'm an adult. But in general, adults typically have a better grasp on taxes than students. That's definitely sure. And they might seem boring, of course, but they're actually really important in life. So yeah, adults definitely point one to the adults on there. What adults understand, they understand taxes. What else do adults understand better than students? Insurance. Whether it's auto insurance, life insurance. Yeah, some companies, right? Homeowners insurance, renters insurance, life insurance, whatever it is. Adults in general have a much better grasp of insurance. It would not surprise me, and I would hazard to guess that many of you don't even know what type of insurance you actually have. Like your parents got you an insurance policy, and most of you probably have no clue about what that is. Why is that? Well, because adults typically understand insurance better than students. What about this kind of a random one? Here's another thing adults typically understand better than students. Groceries. Grocery shopping especially. Now, unless you're one of the unique middle schoolers or high schoolers that your mom or dad sends you to go get groceries for the entire family. There might be a couple of you, but as you can see, that's a minority of the students here. So for most of you, you're probably totally good saying, yeah, parents definitely got more knowledge about the groceries, and I don't really care because I'm a middle schooler or high schooler. It doesn't really matter to me at all, and that's okay. You'll happily admit that your mom or stepmom or dad have a better knowledge and know more about groceries than you. Another thing adults understand better than most students, politics. Yeah, that's probably true in general. We talked about that last week. If we actually put your fellow classmates in charge of changing our nation's laws, that'd be a scary place to live indeed.
It's all right.
In general, the adults know a little bit more about politics than most students. What's another thing? Let's see. What about this? Where to get a good plumber? Yeah, most students wouldn't know where to look for that. Or what about this? If you get strep throat. I had strep throat last year. It's not fun. Raise your hand if you've ever had strep throat before. Okay, what do you do when you get strep throat? Most students are like, I don't know, ask my mom about that. In general, well, yes, besides going to the doctor, but then what would you do after that? So in general, most adults have these things, the corner on the market, on these areas. I mean, the list could go on of what adults know and understand better than students. It's in general. Now, on the other hand, there are things that the student planet gets. We have the older people planet over here. We got the student planet over here. All right, I don't know why I did that. So we have the student planet over here, and there's some things that, students, you guys would know better than adults. For starters, social media. Yeah, social media. Now, maybe your mom is amazing at Instagram. Her Instagram game is like a 10 out of 10. There's some adults that are really good at Instagram games. Mine is not that great, but there's definitely some people that I look up to, like they got good ones. But in general, most teenagers are better at social media than adults are. That's definitely true in general, because most adults have no clue about social media trends like most students do. Another one, yep, you guessed it, modern music. Modern music. Now maybe your mom likes listening to your playlists, but she probably doesn't know what half the lyrics mean. And maybe your dad is an expert on classic rock, but he doesn't know a thing about modern hip hop, right? Okay, so in general, most students know more about today's music than adults. That's definitely true. That's definitely true. What about this? These are generalities. Technology. Technology. I would say most students know more about technology than most adults in our country. It's probably true. Many of you, raise your hand if you have a mobile phone. Who's got a phone? Yeah, you text on your phone. Most of you can text faster than your parents can talk. Yeah. So most teenagers, you guys definitely win that one. Technology. Another one. Pop culture. Girls especially on this one. If you went to your favorite teacher and asked them about which celebrity in Hollywood is dating which celebrity in Hollywood, they'd probably have a very confused look on their face, because in general, students have more knowledge and understand pop culture better than most adults. Because you're in school 8 hours a day, and most adults haven't been in school in about 20 years or more, you probably know more about things like chemistry, or some of you are like, no, I failed last year. Or geometry. You probably know more about these kind of subjects than most adults that haven't been in school in 2 decades or more. Either because the adults have just long since forgotten the skills they learned in middle or high school on these things, or like me, you never learned. I took high school chemistry, and I had a teacher in high school, Calvary Baptist School in Iron Falls, Wisconsin, and my junior year, my chemistry teacher's name was Mr. Sunsmo. The guy was like a walking cartoon, not to be mean, but he wore like the Coke bottle glasses and made his eyes like huge when he looked at him, and we all as students try not to laugh whenever he talked to us. But honestly, he was a really nice guy. Mr. Sunsmo was a really nice guy. Terrible teacher. I didn't learn a thing that entire year in his class, and I still to this day, decades later, have no idea how I passed high school chemistry. All right, so there's our list right now. That's how far it is right now. Should we keep it going? Let's throw it out to the audience here. Okay, audience, what are some things that you would add that students know more about than most adults? You can just shout them out.
Fashion!
Okay, shout them out once at a time. What was the one in the back?
Fashion!
Fashion, oh, that's a good one. Okay, fashion. Like current trends? Okay, I can see that, yeah. Okay, what else? Somebody else yelled something else. What was it? Cars. No. I don't know. I got into cars in 8th grade. I knew quite a bit in 8th grade about cars. Video games. I got room for one more, guys. I got room for one more. Let's start with this side of the room. What do students in general know more about than adults? Anything else?
Hashtags.
That's social media. That's social media.
Yeah, I'm a Medina, that's social media.
Okay. You guys, all right. That's pretty good though. Okay, you can't add to this. That's all right. All right. All right, fair enough. Let's go to the other side. All right. Students, if you're really honest, what are some things that most adults know more about than most students? Okay, child care. Okay, it's true.
Not my parents.
General knowledge.
My mom and my dad.
Money.
Housing.
Oh my gosh. Money. Money. I got money. Money.
Housing.
Teenagers. Okay, child care.
Housing.
All right, so I'm out of room. I'm exhausted by whiteboard. I want to thank Maddie Pope for helping me put this together. If you don't know who Maddie Pope is, that's Pastor Stephen's daughter who sings on our worship team in the main worship group with Pastor Noah. As you can tell, this is my chicken scratch, and this is her nice clear writing that's easy to read, and as mine is very hard. Can you actually read what I wrote there? Yeah. Oh, really? Oh, okay. Well, yeah, those are customer. All right. So why do we do this? Why do we do this? Well, here's the point, guys. Adults and students are different in some obvious ways and also in some not so obvious ways. And for the past couple of weeks, we've been talking about what it means to be underrated. As much as some of you are taking on some roles and responsibilities usually taken on by adults in certain areas of your life, the obvious truth is this. Being younger means you're different than the adults in your life, and that's okay. Anytime two groups of people that are different and come into contact with each other, tensions arise. For adults and students, that tension leads to a lot of negative opinions. Neither group does a great job of believing the best about each other sometimes. And when you don't believe the best in someone else, you push them away and create distance between yourself and them. You push away from them. Now, most of the time, not always, but most of the time, it's the students or preteens or teenagers that are the ones doing the pushing. They're pushing the adults in their lives away from them and completely tuning them out. Well, why is that? Why do students do that? Well, I'm sure it's different for individual cases and it just varies, but maybe one of the reasons that makes us not want to listen to them and start leaning away is, for starters, maybe it's because you have so many adults speaking into your life already. Parents, teachers, coaches, bosses, small group leaders, youth pastor, the list could go on. Yeah, you guys have a lot of adults speaking into your life. And after a while, it can all start to sound like background noise. So why not start to tune it out? Also, it's hard to listen to people when you feel like they don't understand what you're dealing with. Is that true, guys? Yeah. When you don't feel like they get you, they don't know what you're going through. You probably don't have a ton in common with adults in your life, and if you don't feel like someone gets you, it's hard to feel like their advice is relevant, isn't it? Just know something. Adults in your life actually do care about you. It's true. And unlike how you feel sometimes, we're talking about FiveStone Students a lot about not just trusting your feelings and basing thoughts off of your feelings all the time. And unlike how you feel sometimes, the adults in your life are not trying to abuse their authority and belittle you. But what if they could actually serve a purpose in your life? And what if maybe you're missing that purpose because you're too busy getting frustrated, tuning them out, or discounting what they say? What if they could bring something to the table that could actually be helpful to you in your life? What if? The Apostle Paul, who we've been talking about during this series, is the most legendary missionary in the history of Christianity. And like we've been talking about the last couple of weeks, this series, Underrated, is actually not specifically about the Apostle Paul. It's about someone named Timothy, who was a young Christian leader in the first century Christian church who basically was mentored by the Apostle Paul. He was kind of like, you could say he was his protege. Protege, I've heard that before. His protege, yeah. They traveled the world together until eventually Timothy was on his own, leading his own church as a pastor. And just like Timothy had looked up to Paul, he began to have his own inner circles. So Timothy actually became a leader in his own church and had his own young leaders that he was raising up. And so he began to get his own proteges. And just like Timothy had looked up to Paul, there was now a group of people looking up to Timothy and observing his every move and every word that he said. So, seems like a lot of pressure, right? Probably was. So Paul, to help him wrote a letter to Timothy. He's going to try to help him out. Now, many people view Paul's letter with the tone of a father instructing a beloved son. Now, Paul wasn't Timothy's father, but he was almost like a spiritual dad to Timothy. And for the past couple of weeks, we've been looking at the part of the letter where Paul says this. 1 Timothy 4:12, don't let anyone look down on you because you are young, but set an example for the believers in speech and conduct and love and faith and in purity. In the very next chapter, Paul continues with more fatherly advice. Let's look at that. Never speak harshly to an older man, but appeal to him respectfully as you would your own father. Talk to younger men as you would to your own brothers. Treat older women as you would your mother, and treat younger women with all purity as you would your own sisters. 1 Timothy 5:1-2. And I love how these two passages that we just read go hand in hand with each other. So 1 Timothy 4 that we read first, Paul's basically saying, respect the people around you. The older crowd needs to be treated with respect. And guess what? So does the younger crowd, as 1 Timothy 5 is talking about. We need to be respecting people both older than us and younger than us. But, as a student, isn't it usually your natural inclination to see younger and older people as honest nuisances? You don't like your little sister bothering you, and you don't like it when your dad tells you what to do. See, when you're the older person in the room, the younger ones are annoying, right? And when you're the youngest one in the room, the older ones are out of touch. It's funny how that works, isn't it? But that's just normal human behavior. So that's true for you, it's true for me. That's just how humans are. But Paul is saying the way we treat others, younger and older, matters. Being older doesn't give anyone an excuse to treat younger people like they're stupid. And being younger doesn't give anyone a pass to roll their eyes or act like older people, and what they say don't matter. People above us and under us deserve our respect. That's what Paul's saying. Because everyone brings something to the table. Timothy could have ignored this speech, this letter that Paul wrote to him. After all, it's a speech that most people hear at some time in their lives. Or Timothy could have heard this and thought Paul was an out-of-touch old guy and just dismissed it. But instead, Timothy took what Paul said, and he didn't just listen. Catch this. He acted on it. He obeyed. He treated Paul as someone wiser than him that he could learn from. Because Timothy was humble and willing to listen to Paul, Paul trusted him. Timothy had earned Paul's respect and eventually the respect of the entire community of Christians around him. It all began with Timothy's willingness. Catch this. It all began with Timothy's willingness to listen to someone older than him. Everybody look up at the screen there. See it? Is that true about you if I ask people who know you? Are you willing to listen to people that are older than you? There was an exchange of honor and respect that allowed both Paul and Timothy, as an older person and a younger person, to mutually learn from each other. The same can be true for us today. I want you guys to take a minute and think about how, in the past week, you've responded to people who are older than you in your life. Just think for a second. not just parents, just people that are older than you that you've come encounter with in the last week in your life. Are you treating them with respect? Do you listen to them? Like really listen to them? Not in one ear, out the other? Are you learning from them in their life experiences? Now you may be sitting here thinking, well, Pastor Adam, you don't know the adults in my life. They're not exactly the Apostle Paul. What possibly could I learn from them? Now, while it's true that the older people in your life may not have made the best choices, and they've made some bad choices in their life, and may actually still be making bad choices in certain areas in life, but they still have something to offer you. You don't have to agree. Catch this. You don't have to agree with everything that someone says to learn from them. Did you know that? You don't have to agree with everything that someone says just to learn from them. They don't have to be perfect. You don't have to agree with their choices. In fact, you can actually learn from their mistakes so that you don't repeat their mistakes. That's called wisdom. Even if the adults around you have made some big mistakes in their life, they've still gained some wisdom in the process that you can learn from. Wisdom is knowing what it takes to make better decisions. It's being able to figure out what needs to be done. It's having the ability to focus on the smart stuff and not the foolish stuff. Now, sometimes we get wise from our own experiences, and sometimes we're spared the lesson personally and are able to grow wiser from the experiences of other people. That usually is better. Now, you don't have to go through the pain that other people have gone through. This is why this is so wise to listen to other people in your life. Grow wiser from the experiences of others, especially those who have lived more than we have. Good or bad, the experiences of adults give them a leg up. How? Because they've seen more outcomes than you have. That's just a natural part of life. They've lived longer than you. They've seen more outcomes of what can happen. Now, they may not be smarter than you with video games or fashion or current trends or music, but in a lot of ways, their experiences do make them wiser than you. It's true. So you shouldn't just push adults away because they're different from you. Timothy did it. You should see adults as people who are different, but as valuable resources that you can learn from. When it comes to the situations you face in life right now, more often than not, older people will be able to see the bigger picture more easily. They've been around longer. They just have an experience that younger people don't have. It allows them to see things that matter more clearly, and when we humble ourselves enough to hear it, like Timothy did, they have a lot to offer us. In other words, what I'm saying is this: give ownership to someone older in your life. It's the bottom line tonight. Say it to your neighbor. If they're sleeping, wake them up. And if you're taking notes, write down. Give ownership to someone older. Give ownership to someone older. Like Timothy, you need people in your life that you can follow. And I'm not talking about people who think they're perfect and or act like you're weak, motivate you to make bad choices, or impose their beliefs on you. That's not what we're talking about. I'm talking about people who are truly wise because they've experienced more of life and want what's best for you. Those are the kind of people that you should give ownership to. Listen to them. Follow their advice. They will guide you on a path with more joy and less regrets. They will teach you how to live more like Jesus. They will empower you to be more influential to the people around you, including people who are younger than you. But it's your choice. Will you give ownership to someone older? The number one thing you have to decide when it comes to the older people in your life is this. Will you listen to them? And really listen to them? Will you allow their bigger perspective to shape your limited one as a young person? Will you allow them to speak into your current decisions? Will you move past the initial discomfort and involve them in your life? It's difficult to take a risk when other people have ownership in your life, isn't it? So maybe you're sitting here thinking, you might be kind of resistant to the idea, thinking it's annoying when other people tell me how to live my life. Or maybe you're saying, isn't it part of growing up, learning things on my own? I'm trying to become more independent, not dependent on other people. Isn't admitting that I need help or advice a sign of weakness? Or maybe you're saying, I've always just looked out for myself. I don't need anyone else. Maybe you're saying that I just don't know any smart people that I could ask for advice. Thinking about letting other people speak in your life and make you feel frightened, annoyed, childish, or dependent, but that doesn't make it any less important. For instance, I don't like putting gas in my car. It's expensive, it takes a lot of time. It's not convenient. But just because I feel like it's not convenient to me, and I don't really like it, that doesn't make it any less important, does it? No, because if I don't put gas in my car, I can't get to where I need to go. Without wise, older people in your life, you can still be smart. You can be inspired, educated, and hopeful. You can even be a strong and resilient person. Catch this. But you're gonna miss out. You'll miss the perspective that you can't get on your own or only from people who are your age. You'll miss having a model to look toward. You'll miss the motivation to move toward a better life. You'll miss the guidance that helps you better influence and lead others. And in the end, you'll miss a big chunk of what God wants for you. Now you guys are young, which is awesome. But as we've been learning this series, the truth is that unfortunately, there's going to be some people in our world that underrate you. And they're going to feel like you don't bring much to the table. But don't let that slow you down. Your age does not determine your faith or actions. Your potential is greater than what other people think of you. But as you navigate life, you need other people. You need to give ownership to someone older. We're going to close in prayer, so we're going to invite our leaders to come to the front. Please pray with me. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for these students who you brought here. Lord, I don't know what they're going through, but you do, Lord, and so I pray that you work your will in their life. Please help these words that were not from me, but were from you, help them to pierce these students' hearts, help them to really genuinely listen to this and to apply it to the message, just like Timothy did with Paul's letter. Lord, thank you for this series and this study on Timothy's life. Thank you for the reminder that we shouldn't, as young people, allow older people to look down at us just because of our age, but instead, like we learned last week, we should actually try to prove them wrong. And if they think we're lazy, let's be the hardest workers we know. If they think we're unreliable, let's be the most reliable people they know. And today, as we wrap up the series, remembering our bottom line that we need to listen to the older people that you have placed in our life. Let them have a voice in our life. And so I pray that, Lord, that whoever the adults are in these students' lives, that you would help students to know that even though they're not perfect, you have placed them sovereignly in their life, and that they would learn that no matter what they've done wrong in the past or doing wrong now, that as students, they can learn from the older people that you've surrounded them with. I pray that you would allow that to help the students avoid a lot of pain and suffering in their life of learning that lesson on their own. Lord, I pray your blessing over the D groups time. Help the students just be open and transparent with what they're going through so that the message can say, Lord, I pray your blessed protection over us as we're heading next week into camp week, that you would just to bless our time and big stuff. Pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, we're going to transition into D groups. You got guys in the end, slide a little bit over the middle. Come on over here, guys. Squeeze the middle. Emma. Slide down, guys, so they can see you. Guys in the end, slide out so everybody can see you. All right, so if you are a high school lady, you are going to either, you guys have a choice. You can either be with Emma P. over here. You can be with Donna right here. And that's it. And if you're a middle school girl, you have 3 to choose from. You can either be with Olivia, Emma R, or Amy. If you are a middle school guy, you can either be with myself, or Malachi. And if you're a high school guy, well, you don't get a choice, because you're lucky though, we have an awesome leader named Ryan. So, you guys are Ryan, right? Have a great time with teachers, guys.
I remember. Wait.